Is Canada better than America? Let's find out. Out of all of the videos that I react to on this channel, there's another piece of me that actually likes to learn history and likes to learn different things, and I don't mind learning. If you're the type of person that does not mind learning, right, don't mind. All right, I did a video a couple weeks ago comparing Canada to America, and I found another video, and I wanted to get into this video. Let me know where you guys are tapping in from. If you're from Canada, make sure you let us know certain things in the, you know, about the video. Confirm them. We're going to let you know about certain things that they say about America and confirm them. All right, without further ado, let's get right into this video. Smash that like button, and let's see what we got.
States to Canada. Today we'll break our comparison down in... So let's compare the United States to Canada. Today we'll break our comparison down into 6 categories: basic information, geography, people, economies, militaries, and of course any other random crap I could think of. The US and Canada are 2 gigantic countries located in North America. The United States declared its independence from the British Empire on July 4th, 1776. Meanwhile, Canada was founded as a dominion under the British Empire on July 1st, 1867, but was not actually a fully independent country until 1982. The United States is head of state and...
Oh, see, we're learning. I didn't know that Canada got their independence in '82. Wow, that's like recent. They just got their independence.
Not actually a fully independent country until 1982. The United States' head of state and head of government is President Joe Biden, who is a member of the Democratic Party. Canada's head of state is King Charles III, and its head of government is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who is a member of the Liberal Party.
All right, let's start with the politics. I don't know who that president that they just showed up on that screen. I don't know who that old man was, but I guess that's our president. He's all right, I guess. What do you guys feel about your president or prime minister? What's his name? President Charles? Yeah, who's your guy? Let's see what his name is.
Party. Canada's head of state is King Charles.
King Charles. So what is your guys' relationship with King Charles?
The third, and its head of government is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who is a member of the Liberal Party. The USA has 2 national animals, one of which is of course the bald eagle, which can be found on its coat of arms, and the American bison. Canada also has 2 national animals, the North American beaver and the Canadian horse. Both the United States and Canada are democracies, and both are organized as federal republics, meaning that governmental power in both nations is shared between their respective federal governments and the state and provincial governments. For example, the federal government in the US is responsible for handling foreign affairs, printing money, and maintaining a military, while each state in the United States carries out its own elections, runs its own education system, and pays its own roads. Both countries' governments are divided up into 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The flag of the United States features 50 stars, 1 for each state, and 13 stripes for the original 13 colonies that declared their independence from the British Empire in 1776. Canada's flag features a maple leaf, which has been a symbol of the nation since the 1800s. Canada and the United States are absolute behemoths of nations, taking up a combined 80% of North America. Both countries stretch from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over to the Pacific Ocean. Canada has an area of over 9.9 million square kilometers, or in American, over 3.8 million square miles. The US has an area of over 3.7 million square miles, or in Canadian, over 9.8 million square kilometers. This makes the United States 96.1% of the size of Canada. The contiguous United States is spread across 4 different time zones, while Alaska and Hawaii have their own distinct time zones. Several US territories are also in different time zones. Canada is spread across 6 different time zones from coast to coast. Both the US and Canada possess several territories.
See, now, as far as America goes, guys, on the East Coast, there's a 3-hour difference between the West Coast and the East Coast time. So I would only assume that there's 3 time zones. So like if it's 12 o'clock here, it would be 1 o'clock Midwest. It would be 2 o'clock. It would be 3 o'clock on the East. So there's 3 time zones out here.
Several US territories are also in different time zones. Canada is spread across 6 different time zones from coast to coast. Both the US and Canada possess several territories. The US has 5 inhabited territories: Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Guam, the US Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Canada's 3 territories, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, are located in the very north of Canada. To give you an idea of just how monstrously large Canada and the USA are, here are the 2 placed in North America America. Here they are in South America. Here they are over Europe. This is then placed in Asia. Here they are over Kangaroo Land. And here they are placed over Africa. Overall, Canada and the United States are the second and third largest countries in the world behind only Russia. At over 5,500 miles in length, the US-Canada border is the longest border in the world. Canada borders just one country, the Walmart Republic, to the south and west. Meanwhile, the United States borders just two countries, Tim Hortons to the north and Taco Bell to the south. The United States consists of roughly 7% water and 93% land.
What do you eat at a Tim Hortons?
While Canada consists of roughly 9% water and 91% land. The United States is divided up into 50 states, with Alaska being its largest state by far and Rhode Island being its smallest. California, being home to roughly the entire population of Canada by itself, is the most populous American state. While Wyoming, home to just under 600,000 people, is the least populous state, being home to fewer people than the city of Detroit. Canada is divided up into 10 provinces, with Quebec being its largest province and Prince Edward Island being its smallest. Ontario, which is home to over 14.5 million people, is the most populous Canadian province. While again, Prince Edward Island, home to just over 150,000 people, is the least populous.
So if we're coming to Canada, right, as an American, or just as anybody coming to Canada, right, where would you guys say the party at? Because they're saying, I didn't know Ontario was so big, right? So where would you guys recommend the party at, and what kind of vibe do you get in Ontario? And you can answer any of these random questions. I'm really just asking them, I know, throughout the video.
Which is home to over 14.5 million people, is the most populous Canadian province. While again, Prince Edward Island, home to just over 150,000 people, is the least populous province. Ottawa, the capital city of Canada, is located in the province of Ontario, while Washington, the capital of the United States, is located in the District of Columbia, which is not a state. Canada is, unsurprisingly, a very cold nation, with its north being practically empty. For this reason, half of the Canadian population live below this line, and 90% live within 100 miles of the US border. Canada is characterized by its dense forests, hundreds of thousands of lakes, fertile farmland, and beautiful mountains. In fact, I'd say the Canadian Rocky Mountains are some of the most beautiful in the world. In contrast to the frigid wasteland that is northern Canada, southern Canada enjoys a temperate climate, with cold winters and warm summers. Meanwhile, its southern guns...
So, it's so cold that people can't even live there. Now, what are the temperatures that go into those places that they're talking about? And do you know any people that are, like, close to that area? I'm speaking to my Canadians, if you guys know any people in that area.
Slinging, burger consuming, ice cream licking, Walmart shopping, mobility scooter riding neighbor is arguably the single most geographically diverse country in the world. The US is home to every climate and landform you could possibly imagine, some of which include the Mediterranean-like climate of California, the tropical climates of Florida and Hawaii, the deserts of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Nevada, the temperate climate of the East Coast and Midwest, the frigid mountains of Alaska, and the dense forests of Washington. Canada and the US share the Great Lakes, which account for about 20% of the world's total freshwater. The Mississippi and Missouri rivers, which are roughly the same length, are the longest rivers in the United States. Meanwhile, the Mackenzie River is the longest river flowing entirely in Canada. Mount Logan in Yukon is Canada's tallest mountain, standing at over 19,000 feet. Mount Denali in Alaska is the United States' tallest mountain, standing at over 20,000 feet. Both Canada and the United States have some of the worst Netflix selections on the planet. I mean, come on, man. I live in the US and I want to watch The Office. Luckily, with...
Real quick, guys, what do you guys watch on Netflix in Canada? I mean, I don't even know, like, how it would go. It's just an interesting question. What do you guys watch on Netflix? What are, like, the shows you watch out there?
The US is home to roughly 335 million people with a 0.5% population growth rate, while Canada is home to about 40 million people with a 1.4% population growth rate. Overall, Canada is the 37th most populous country ahead of Poland but behind Ukraine, while the United States is the third most populous country behind only India and China. Overall, for every one Canadian, there are about 8.3 Americans. Canada, with just 4 people per square kilometer or 11 people per square mile, is more than 9 times less densely populated than the United States, with 37 people per square kilometer or 96 people per square mile. Both countries are home to some very important global cities.
See, I'm from New Jersey, which is the East Coast. So I've lived in New York City, and they always say it's overpopulated. And I think I never thought about it like that. Like 96 people within a square mile. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is when you have all these people moving at the same time. That's what there's a lot of traffic in New York, a lot of traffic in LA as well.
The 10 largest cities in the United States are Austin, Dallas, San Diego, San Antonio, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. Canada's largest cities are Hamilton, Brampton, Vancouver, Mississauga, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Ottawa, Calgary, Montreal, and Toronto. The Toronto metropolitan area with over 6 million people is Canada's largest metro area. The New York metropolitan area with roughly 20 million people is the United States' States' largest metro area. About 78.5% of Americans speak English as their first language. 13.2% speak Spanish, 1.1% speak some form of Chinese, and 7.2% speak something else. In fact, the United States has the world's 5th highest population of Spanish speakers with over 41 million. Meanwhile, 57% of Canadians speak English as their first language, 21% speak French, and 22% speak something else. The United States does not have any official languages, while English and French are the official languages of Canada. As for religion, 69% of Americans are Christians, 21% are non-religious, and 7% follow something else. In Canada, 53.3% of the population are Christians, about a third are non-religious, and about 14% follow something else. About 58.9% of Americans are white, 19.1% are Hispanic, 13.6% are black, 6.6% are Asian or Pacific Islander, and 1.8% are something else. 69.8% of Canadians are white, 7.1% are South Asian, 5% are Indigenous, 4.7% are Chinese, and 13.4% are something else. About 49.6% of Canadians are males, while about 50.4% are females. About 49.5% of Americans are males, while about 50.5% are females. The median age in the United States is 38.9, while the median age in Canada is 41.7. The United States has a life expectancy of 77.28 years, while Canada has a life expectancy of 81.75 years. Canada and the United States have...
So you can live longer in Canada. I mean, I do know that you guys got free healthcare and stuff like that, and certain things. I heard you guys get a midwife. If your wife gets pregnant, she can get a midwife. Like certain things that you guys got that you don't have here.
Some of the world's largest and most developed economies. With a GDP of $2.1 trillion, Canada has the world's 10th largest economy, ahead of Russia, but behind Brazil. Meanwhile, the United States has a $26.9 trillion GDP, giving it the world's largest economy by far. In 2019, the American economy grew by 2.3%, while the Canadian economy was slightly slower, growing by 1.9%. Despite accounting for just 4.2% of the global population, the U.S. economy accounts for 25.8% of the global economy. Canada's population accounts for just 0.5% of the global population, but its economy accounts for roughly 2% of the global economy. The United States is home to major brands like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Nike, Walmart, McDonald's, ExxonMobil, JP Morgan Chase, Coca-Cola, Adobe, PepsiCo, Bank of America, Comcast, Disney, Netflix, Ford, General Motors, and many others. Canada is home to some major brands like the Canadian National Railway, the Royal Bank of Canada, Toronto Dominion Bank, Canadian Pacific Railway, Shopify, Lululemon, the Bank of Montreal, and Thomson Reuters. The U.S.
Only 2 things off that list we know. Shopify and TD Bank.
Today's $80,000 GDP per capita is comparable to places like Denmark, Iceland, Qatar, and Singapore. Canada's decently lower $53,000 GDP per capita is comparable to places like Germany, Israel, Belgium, and Macau. Overall, Canada's GDP per capita is about 2/3 the size of the United States' GDP per capita. The United States uses the US dollar as its currency, while Canada uses the Canadian dollar. Overall, $1 US is equal to $1 Canadian and 37 cents, and $1 Canadian is equal to 73 US cents. Both Canada and the United States are some of the world's largest importers and exporters of goods. In 2021, Canada imported $609.2 billion worth of goods and exported $611.1 billion worth of goods. Meanwhile, the United States imported $3.4 trillion worth of goods and exported over $2.5 trillion worth of goods. Overall, Canada is the world's 13th largest importer and the world's 14th largest exporter. The United States is the world's largest importer and the world's 2nd largest exporter. The Americans have a 3.9% unemployment rate, while the Canadians have a 5.7% unemployment rate. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla.
So when they say unemployment, are they like factoring entrepreneurs and people that are just like not necessarily working on the books, or you think that they're factoring the whole place? Because that's a big difference in unemployment.
And SpaceX is the richest man in the United States and the entire world, with a net worth of $225.5 billion. To put that into perspective, only 55 countries have larger economies than Elon Musk's net worth. Canada's richest people are the Thomson family, the owners of Thomson Reuters, worth a collective $53.9 billion. The average salary in the United States is roughly $59,000, while the average salary in Canada sits at about $65,000. The United States is a nuclear power, while Canada is not. The Americans possess the 2nd highest number of nuclear weapons in the world, behind only Russia. The United States has about 1.3 million active duty personnel and about 740,000 reserve personnel. Canada has about 67,000 active duty personnel and about 35,000 reserve personnel. Overall, the Americans have over 2 million total military personnel, while the Canadians have about 100,000 total military personnel. Both Canada and the United States spend tens of billions of dollars on their militaries every single year. The Canadians spend about $26.9 billion while the Americans spend a whopping $877 billion. No surprise here, but the United States is the world's largest military spender. Meanwhile, Canada is the 14th largest spender. Both countries are probably each other's closest allies. Both are also allies with the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and the rest of NATO, as both countries are members of the organization. Both are also good buddies with Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, and Japan. Meanwhile, some of their greatest adversaries include North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia. Overall, Canada is ranked as having the world's 27th strongest military, while the United States has the strongest military in the world. Ice hockey is Canada's most popular sport, while football, or American football if you're a communist, is the most popular sport in the United States. In fact, American teams have won every single Super Bowl, partially because they are the best and partially because no other country wants to play. Toronto Pearson International Airport is Canada's busiest airport, receiving 50.5 million passengers in 2019. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is the busiest airport in the United States and the entire world, receiving 110.5 million passengers in 2019. Some of Canada's most famous landmarks include the CN Tower in Toronto, Niagara Falls, and Le Chateau Frontenac in Montreal. Some of America's most famous landmarks include the Statue of Liberty in New York, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, the White House in Washington, D.C., and the Grand Canyon in Arizona. In 2022, Canada produced 17.4 million gallons of maple syrup, unsurprisingly the most in the world. Meanwhile, the United States produced about 5 million gallons. Mr. Beast, with over 200 million subscribers, is the most subscribed to YouTube channel in the United States and the most subscribed to individual in the world. Meanwhile, Justin Bieber, with over 72 million subscribers, is Canada's most subscribed to YouTube channel. And most important of—
so Justin Bieber has more subs in the whole Canada? That's insane.
All the Americans have contributed over 33 million views to our channel, while the Canadians have contributed almost 4.5 million. This means for about every 7.4 American Global Things viewers, there is one Canadian viewer. Click here to watch my comparison of France and Germany. Thank you for 300.
Now, this is actually, hold on. This is interesting. This was actually interesting. I didn't know a lot of these things, and I'm actually happy that we actually are learning this. I love history. I love learning about, things that I didn't know about, and I'm actually curious to know what you guys heard on the video. Like, was it factual stuff? Anything different? You guys actually lived there, right? We are subscribed. We have 46,000 subs. We're on our way to 1 million. If you don't mind, hit that button before you go, and I'll see you on the next one.